And I walk through the doors, and there's this long registration table there. And there are these nice ladies standing behind the registration table. And there are 1,000 name tags on this registered table. So I walk up, and the lady says, "Hello, may I help you? Are you registered? Are you a delegate for the convention?" And I said,
"Yes."
And the lady said, "Well, what's your name?" And I glanced down real quick at all these name tags. The first name tag I saw was Jeff Easter. And I said, "My name is Jeff Easter." And she looked on she had a roster. She said, "Oh, you're right here. You're from Albemarle." She checked my name off. This is a true story. And you'll understand why it's important to know God's will in you. She said, "Jeff Easter, we have your name right here." And she gave me a little tote bag with stuff in it and a name tag. And she said, "Enjoy the convention." So I walked in. Before I walked in, I went to the men's room. Turned this tag around. Wrote my name on the blank side of it, then slipped it back into the little plastic thing. So then I walked in the convention area, and people had, the various counties had signs up and whatnot, Albemarle, Loudoun County, Prince William, and so forth. So I just started walking around, and after a while I just sort of cozied up quietly to the Albemarle folks. And they were having conversations. They didn't know who I was. I didn't know who they were. And there were bleachers there. And they were sitting in the bleachers, and I went next to them and just tried to hear what the conversation was all about. And they kept talking about this guy named Peter Way. And I didn't know who he was. And he was the delegate in this district at that time in '96. And there was talk that he may not run for re-election. So the first thing that came to my mind was, whose district do I live in anyway? I didn't know whose. But if he's not going to run, I'm hoping maybe I live in his district. But I was too embarrassed to ask anybody. So I hung out at the convention, and driving back from Salem, the only thing that was on my mind was, am I in Peter Way's district? So I get home, and I don't remember who I called, and I took out my voter card, and I figured pretty soon that I was in Peter Way's district. And it wasn't long after that he officially announced that he was not going to run for re-election. And that's when I got involved with the party, and later that year, I believe Melissa Easter who was elected chairman of the Albemarle County Republican Party. So when I joined, she said, "I understand you were at the convention." I said, "Yeah." She said, "Is your name Jeff Easter?" And her husband Jeff was standing next to her, and he said they were playing this little game, and he looked at Melissa and he said, "Couldn't be Jeff Easter, could it?" And I was like, okay, I think I'm being set up here. So to make a long story short, Melissa and Jeff became great friends, and she was a great help and assistance to me when I decided to run in '97. And the rest, as they say, is history. Now we have the rest of the So, okay, I have 5 minutes left, so I'm going to talk about a little bit about where I think the party is headed. I was elected at a time there was great excitement about being a Republican in Virginia. In '97, the House was still controlled by Democrats, so was the Senate. But there was concern because the momentum was going in our favor. And the Democrats at that time, the area was represented by Emily Couric, who's a state senator, and Mitch Van Aries, who was the delegate from Charlottesville, and myself. And I remember at one event we were introduced as hear no evil, see no evil, and evil. But that's just sort of how it was at the time. So we were getting close as Republicans to taking over power, and all of a sudden the Democrats became very interested in knowing how we were going to behave when we became the majority party. And I told them they had nothing to worry about. We were going to treat them the same way they treated us for the last 100 or so years. And we ended up taking the majority, first in the Senate, and then we gained a majority in the House. And this is on the heels when we had already done some fairly remarkable things under the Allen administration, including juvenile justice reform, abolishing parole, welfare reform, and some other wonderful initiatives that we were trying to continue on with majorities in the House and the Senate. So it was a great and wonderful time to be in service. I have to be frank with you and tell you that what I enjoy most about my time in public office are those moments that aren't talked about very much, never written about, but you're sitting at home with your family on a Sunday afternoon, or you're watching an NFL game, and the phone rings. And it's mother on the phone who is having some trouble with her teenage son who attends Western Albemarle High School, or Charlottesville High School. People do not really understand where the boundaries are. There are a great many people in Charlottesville who thought I was their delegate and were furious when they showed up at the polls and didn't see my name on the register. I would call them and say, would you please tell these people in Charlottesville that they're not in your district? But you get these calls from parents and say, would you come talk to my son or daughter who's having problems in high school, not very motivated? And you take time out. You go out around the dinner hour and you spend an hour or two talking to this 16-year-old or 17-year-old who's sort of sitting there slumped over in the sofa with, the parents are sitting there on the couch, and there you are trying to impart whatever wisdom you have to encourage this young child to buckle down and stay focused and graduate from high school and go on to college and do wonderful things. And you go back home to your family and go on with your life. And a few years later, you go out to check the mail. There's this card there in the mail from the young lady that you spent some time talking to 3 years ago when they were in high school, letting you know that they're in their second year at James Madison or VCU or ODU. Great, they're enjoying college, and they, thankful for the time that I took to come out and talk to them. And I'm sure other legislators have a similar experience to share. But for me, that was public service. I can't remember the bills that I had drafted. I don't remember a lot of the votes that I took.